Welcome to the 26th Video Community of Practice meeting. I'm Pankaj Agrawal, founder of Next Software Solutions and working group leader of this community of practice. Let's get started. In the last meeting, we had discussed about the xAPI profile specification, and Jason mentioned that we should have sample statements and statement templates that would ease working on the prototypes. And Jason has worked on both of them. He has started working on the prototype using Video.js, and he also started working on the statement templates in the earlier document that he had created. And he has started working on adding more use cases to this document so that sample template statements can be created and it can be used to simplify the process of creating the prototype. So I think it might be best that Jason can describe what he's doing, and then we can talk on any other topics we want to talk.
Yeah, sure. That sounds fine. Thanks, Pankaj. Yeah, so yeah, no, this is taking so much longer, but I finally got some time to go back and try to start building out that prototype or reference implementation of the video profile. And there's also a couple of moving targets. As you guys know, we started this profile spec work group, and we're due to have it completed by next month, or yeah, actually, I think the first week of July. So what I've been trying to do is apply the new profile spec requirements to the video profile. We already kind of did, you know, the vocab spec previously. I think that one's going to get deprecated, and we'll just roll all of it into the profile spec. But we've done that, you know, a good amount of work defining the verbs and activity types. You guys have been for quite a while defining a lot of different use cases. And I think it's time to actually get those use cases fleshed out and documented kind of in a standard form like this. I think this template would help us. And that's kind of what I've been working on. And, you know, when I started doing the reference implementation with Video.js, I've only done a couple of different statements. I've done like played, viewed, completed, you know, some of the basic ones. I was just getting started on skipped, and thought came to me that we really need to flesh out all of these statement templates or examples. That'll make it a lot easier when building the prototype. So I really want to try to call on you guys to help out, help me complete this. I know I'm probably missing use cases. I know you, Pankaj, in the original community of practice document, you guys had a lot more defined in there. I know the first year I missed a lot of calls, and you guys got in pretty deep into different types of use cases, heat maps, and everything. So I don't want to like leave any out here. So I put this kind of template together so we can all kind of start working and constructing these standardized templates. But I don't want this to be, you know, just me alone doing it and me missing some of the ones that you guys might have identified earlier. So feel free to jump in here and add to this if you can.
And where is this located? Can you?
I've shared the link on the message box. Let's see if we have anything.
I've worked on a.
Okay.
In fact, I'm writing a series of articles for the Guild right now, partially on this. So I'll jump in with. I'm doing mine on straight HTML because it was a negotiation, but I can rewrite it for JPlayer or whatever you're using.
Sure. It's Video.js, but yeah, you can do straight to HTML too. Whatever you want. So is the article on the video profile itself, or just implementing video with xAPI?
It's implementing video. So right now, what I'm working on is I just did the first one. The next one is on building the statement. The one after that is actually on collecting video consumption.
Okay.
But that's more in line with the presentation I did with at DevLearn. So I'm not really using this profile. But
Yeah.
once I get through those, then the idea is to come back and focus more on video profile and things.
That would be great. Yeah, maybe we can work with you and help co-author something, because I think it'd be good to help promote this once it's ready. And timing wise, I'm thinking around June or July when the profile spec is done would be good timing to have the video one done, because there's 2 other exemplar profiles they're trying to support with the release. So DISC is under a BAA contract with ADL right now to do this work, and 2 of the deliverables are the CMI5 profile and the SCORM profile, and I'm kind of just doing this one on the side so I can learn what they're trying to enforce and apply this one. So timing wise, hopefully this will be done around July as well.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely get some stuff. I mean, you've got a pretty good list of examples here. But yeah, I can definitely, if you need help with that, if there's something specific you need, let me know. Or if anybody sees a gap, I can definitely write some stuff up for you. And then, like I said, I'll let you know when I'm start getting to that part of the articles.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, and I'll be glad to help work on the example with you. And I don't know if it'd be done in time for your articles, so you might want to stick with HTML5. But so totally your call. You could at least use the basic thing I started to work on right now. And I'm not a great programmer, but I can hash some stuff together. So there's probably a better way to do some of the things I've done in there. But yeah, I'll share that out with you guys here soon. We can maybe collaboratively start adding to it in GitHub or something once we've got all these statement examples finished. But oh yeah, so I mean, the Video.js, they've worked on their documentation over the past few months, and another reason why I didn't really want to jump into Video.js back in, I don't know, December or January when we were first kind of playing around with the notion, is their documentation was horrible. I couldn't figure out how or where in the API to trigger some of the events I wanted to send a statement, because it just wasn't well documented. Well, they've been working on it, and it's pretty decent now. It's really come along.
That's good.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, and I don't disagree with you going with Video.js, but that's one of the reasons why I always push JW Player is their documentation. Anything you want to do is very, very well documented.
Yeah.
That's also, it's a pay service though. So you're going to get better, they have people paid to do that. So you're going to get better response there. Video.js is open source and it's all volunteer. So,
yeah,
it's a trade.
Yeah, I didn't realize too. It's I think Bright Cove is the company that helped sponsor it.
I think so, yeah.
So it's really their player. I mean, that's the library they use.
Who, the JW Player?
No, the Video.js.
Okay.
I don't know if that was like a new thing that just happened or what, but yeah, they're like the sponsor of it, and they've got a lot of their examples on their website too using it. Maybe they just moved to it in the past year or something. Yeah, anyway, so that's, I don't know if we want to dive in and actually work on those today during the call, but I mean, that's where I think we need to work. I really need some help, is like, let's get all these use case statement templates completed. And once we've got that done, really just putting together the prototypes, the next step, and we'll, and then after that, I still need to apply these statement template patterns based on the profile spec, which shouldn't be too hard, I don't think, for this particular profile, not as hard as some of the other ones like CMI5, but I'll still need to bounce out, if I'm doing that right, off of Russell Duhon and some others from the profile spec group. But all that's going to do by adding the statement templates and the patterns is help with validation. If someone said they were like conformant to the video profile, their statements would be able to be validated against the rules that you guys have put in here for when, you know, certain verbs are said or whatever. So it's kind of like adding a schema-like functionality to what we're putting in the statement so they can be validated.
So we'll need to create that schema based on these statements that we are adding on this use case document.
No. I've got a row in there under that example that says statement template, and I just have it blank for now because I haven't added it yet. But that's what we'll probably add here as the profile spec gets more solidified. So you can just leave that in there as a placeholder for now. But what we need to do is get these statements right, because all that, there's really going to be nothing that changes in the statement examples.
So last month when you talked about use cases, I didn't understand it very clearly. I'm sorry for that. My kid.
Somebody's hungry.
Someone does not like your use cases, Jason.
Maybe. So yes, when you talk about use cases, I was thinking about the use cases that we discussed earlier, and it is kind of a little different from what I was thinking. So basically, here what you are talking about is mostly about the statements that we are generating out of video profile. Is that correct?
Right. What are the different types of use cases? Initialize the video, pause the video, skip, like all of those. The listings up at the top of the contents. Yeah. So I think the use cases you guys defined before were a little bit more broader in that like a lot of these different types of things can happen. But I think the idea is this more granularity of the approach it allows you to kind of mix and match the different use cases and form one larger one if you needed to.
Yeah, so these are the core use cases which you are talking about. So played, paused, seeked, and all these are core use cases, and then there are other related use cases which are out there, which we might most probably not want. We might not want to put it in this spec itself, but it might be good to have some sample statements out there so that people trying to do those kind of things, like adding a quiz in the middle of a video. The statement itself would not be part of the profile itself, but it would probably, a sample statement would probably help people trying to do those kind of things. And when we have score and profile, I think we can use the statement from there and add a related statement, a parent ID or something, so that we can relate it to the video. And it would be a mix of both profiles.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds totally feasible.
Yeah.
So are there any that I'm missing there from the top, or I know you've already gone in and added some edits to these that are here. Which ones are we missing?
Yeah, so I changed the statements. I edited the statements that you had already added. So for example, for the initialized statement, there is a statement ID that is required. I think we have not mentioned that it is required somewhere, but maybe we can make it a must. So this statement ID itself will be used in all the other statements as the session ID for this session. So in this same statement, I have also added the session ID, which is same as the statement ID there. Apart from that, in some statements, I added this additional statement for sending initial environment information. So once the video is initialized, the initial environment, we might want to send the initial environment statement, like what is the size of the video, what is the size of the screen, what is the volume, and those kind of things. So depending on the player, it might be possible to send this environment information when the video is no problem. So it might be possible to send the environment information when the video is initialized, or depending on the video player, it might be better to send when the video is played. So it might go with the first play along with the first play statement. So in this we have all these context extensions. So I've added all the extensions that are there. Some of them might be dropped if not required. So for example, if CC subtitle enabled is false, then we would not need CC subtitle language. So those can be removed if required.
Okay.
And then I had put a comment here because I see that object ID is mentioned as URL, and in some places it is mentioned as value. So probably we need to decide like what to put in there so that it's not confusing.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think I put URL in there or something when it was an object ID because it's an IRI or whatever.
Yeah. So
just a placeholder. That would be dynamically generated based on what the actual URL of the video is being played. Like I was able to do that with video.js, grab the URL and dynamically insert it in there.
Okay.
This kind of template is for, it's going to change. Your statement's going to change based on what video you're playing. That's all I was trying to say then. It's just a placeholder.
Yeah, but in other statements, for example, in this statement you have written value, so that is one thing we can make consistent.
Yep.
And another thing was that should we add, for example, this is an extension for time. So should we write value here, or should we write an example time value instead of writing value?
Well, for anything that is dynamic, I just put value in there instead of putting an actual example of a time.
Yeah, but a lot of things will be dynamic. For example, the name here will be dynamic. The description of the video will be dynamic. So
True. Good point. Well, I'm fine with either way. What do you guys recommend? Would you rather see an example in there or just placeholder? Yeah, we should make it consistent. You're right. Good point, Pankaj.
If someone is implementing the video, he might generally want to see the actual value so that he understands how it should look like.
Yeah, so so kind of what I was looking at writing is, basically here's the code. What I would have done is, here's the code example. Either the full page, maybe I do one full page with everything, or just the code snippet, whatever, that has the values in the code, and then focus on the statement. So for example, if I'm doing, the one I always use is Big Buck Bunny, because it's an open source video, it's free to use, and it's an awesome video, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I might say, okay, video file equals whatever Big Buck Bunny, and then I would use that to build the statement, so I could show, okay, this is where it is in the code, this is where it is in the statement, this is how you get from A to B. And it's general, now the way I do it is a hell of a lot more involved and detailed and just annoying you have to make sure, for example, I have all my commas in the right place, which I got called out on recently. But I mean, at least that way, you can see where it's coming from. Now, the downside of that is, and I will tread lightly on my soapbox, far too many people in our alleged industry have no idea how to code anything. So I don't know if that code example, we're kind of in a catch-22 of, I don't know if the code example would actually help them with anything.
Most of the users who will see these statements will be the developers who are building profiles for maybe authoring tools, or maybe for some large organizations, because general users of video will not be coming and seeing the statements or the profile specification itself. So when a developer comes in and sees this statement, generally as a developer, when I see it, I feel instead of this URL tag or a value tag, if I see the real URL or the real value, it is generally easier for me to understand or grab that information than when there is a tag out there. And when a general person would come and see, it would be much more difficult for him to see the value and URL tag instead of a real URL and a real value. So
totally agree. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Let's put the real examples in there. That makes sense. I put in the chat window the default video, this ocean life video that I have in here. That's the one that comes with video.js. So I'll go back and put the actual URL example in there.
Okay. So yes, so yeah, that would be good. So instead of time, we can have something like play the video, so we can have maybe 0. And yeah. So in all the statements, I have added this context extension called session ID, and I've used the same session ID, which is the statement ID of the initialized verb. Apart from that, I had yeah, so this is one mistake initially I also had done, is that there are two types of extensions. One is the result extension and the other one is context extension. So I had initially added some of these extension values in the result section that you had added, and then later I moved it to the context extension. So in the result extension, we only have time, time from, time to, and progress and heat map. So other values I have moved to the context extension.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, because I figured I'd probably mess some of these up and need you guys to make sure they're right. What was the whole heat map extension again? I forget.
Yeah, so before I get to that, let's also talk about this one first. So these two statements you have added is for actor changed video to full screen mode and back to normal mode. So when a user changes the screen to full screen mode, we definitely add this extension called full screen to true and send this interacted statement. But my assumption is that when you are doing anything related to screen size, like changing to full screen or back, we might also want to send the screen size and video playback size. So most probably in full screen, most probably it will be same value for both screen size and video playback size, unless making video to full screen only makes it full screen on the browser size. So I think these two additional extensions might be useful whenever anything changes with the screen size. Or does it make sense? Hello.
Seems to me. Does anyone else agree or disagree? Sending the playback size and screen size when they change to full screen. Just extra metadata. I don't see that it hurts anything for sure.
Yeah. So when we go to full screen, it'll tell what is the screen size. And when we go back to normal, for example, in this statement, when an actor changed video to normal size, if we say full screen false, if we have screen size and video playback size, we will know what is the screen size when it is going to false. So we'll know if it is 1 by 1 pixel or it is 960 by 640 pixel. So these are the changes I made, and yes, coming back to the heat map thing that you mentioned, what it started with, I guess, was the requirement of knowing if the video is actually completed instead of finding if the user reached the end of the video. So most of the implementations today will check that the user has reached the end of the video and not check for real completion of the video. And when users are able to skip video at different points of time, it gets a little complicated. And then Peter Silby got an idea. I think it came from some idea from I guess Video.js or some other. I'm sorry, from Vimeo or some other player out there. A heat map of what the user has gone through that video. So if he has skipped the video or watched watched a specific part of the video multiple times, a heat map would give a very good idea of what parts of the video are more useful than the other, or what parts of the video are watched. And both of these use cases, the completion of the video as well as the heat map visualization of the video, would would require us to know the segments of the video that the user watched. So we put that in a string called heat map. At that point of time, also had asked everyone if we can find a better word, but no one of us could think of a better word, and we decided that we'll use heat map. So
okay, yeah, that's where I was asking for that, because I haven't seen any other statements that use terms that are used because they describe the intended result of generating an analytical report.
yeah, I personally don't like that word for this particular thing, but
yeah, I've had other people give me feedback too, like, "Well, no, you shouldn't name it that," but that's fine. Maybe we can brainstorm later on what to call it.
Well, I will say, in practice, what I ended up doing for the work that I did was, because the problems that happen on the back side, on the reporting side, I actually I just said I sent the position information only on the pause statement. And well, I think on play I send where you are when you hit play, but when you hit pause or when it's completed, or if stop is available. I went in a completely different direction because of the practicality of it was in if you have somebody who watches a video multiple times, there's a lot of headache that you have to go in when you pull the queries, because you have to query play, you have to query pause, you have to query completed, you have to query stop, then you have to arrange them by their time order. Then you have to make sure, okay, did somebody abandon or did they complete? You know, why did they go from 3 minutes back to 2 minutes? I actually just found it a lot easier to put the position and the consumption information on a pause statement. In practice, I'm not sure the heat map is going to work, honestly.
You don't think it will work because it is complicated to code, or it is not so useful?
In order to make it work, you would need, if you're sending statements on play, pause, stop, completed, you would need a minimum of 4 queries, because you can only query one verb at a time. So you would need you would have to query 4 times, and then you would have to put all of that together on the client side.
Exactly. So we definitely don't need to send it on play, because when you start a video segment, you will not know when it has ended. So at that point of time, you don't need to send it, so you don't need to query play. Now, I think we had decided that we will send heat map with paused. So if I think we had decided that you brought it up and it reminded me. So I think we had decided that we'll send a paused verb before the end of the video. So if the video ends, we'll say paused, and then I think we don't have ended, so we'll send paused at the end of the video, and the time will tell that it is paused, it is ended, and we'll send a pause before terminated or abandoned. So if we are sending terminated or abandoned verb, we'll send a paused along with it. That means before that. So the paused verb will have the heat map value, and if you query the last paused verb, the last paused verb will have the entire heat map string. And when you create a new heat map string, you pull the last paused verb for that registration and for that activity ID, object ID combination, and you add the new segments on it. So creating it is not so complicated when you use only one paused verb.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with almost everything you just said. I think on paper that works, but in practice, the reporting side got exponentially the reporting side gets exponentially more complicated very, very quickly.
In what terms? Like showing one heat map, or combining multiple heat maps? What are you talking about?
Well, the problem you're going to run into is if you're looking at, if you're looking at the heat map, you're probably not looking at just one user. You're looking at multiple users. So you have to identify, you have to get all that information, then you have to sort through it and create the records in such a way that you can tell, okay, this person played from 2 minutes to 3 minutes in this session, and from 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes and 30 seconds in a completely different session versus in the same session. Because if you don't, the math starts getting kind of wonky.
So that is why we are not tracking per session. We are tracking per registration. So if a user has registered for a specific course, it might generate a registration ID. And for that registration, the heat map string will continue to grow. even if he has done it in 10 sittings, on the second session when he launches the video, the script will pull the paused verb. So the last paused verb it will pull from the LRS and get the heat map string and add new segments that he has watched in that session to that string. And at the end, when reporting, you'd create a heat map based on that the last paused statement of that registration. And converting that string to a visual form is very simple.
Yeah, but I think that's also a very, very limited use cases. The vast majority of videos are not behind a registration.
Yeah, so if you are not using registration, it would mean that the entire thing is one. So if registration is not used, you would pull the last paused verb and then use that. So at the end, it will be per user. You'll have per user, the last paused verb of that user will have the entire string of heat map data. And you can watch that user's profile. And if you want to profile for the entire users in your database, you can add up all the strings, just concatenate all the strings. You'll have a long string, obviously, and then convert it into heat map.
Yeah, I'm thinking that could get very, very fiercely ugly very, very quickly. Because now, if you're looking at videos that people might watch multiple times, I mean, I'm thinking of YouTube. You're never going to be able to pull a query on video consumption for YouTube. It'll never work. I'm going to tell you right now, the amount of data you would need to pull from, I mean, just here, I had see here, John Oliver last night had 1,433,074 views as of the time I played it. If you're looking at anybody who's played that multiple times, or if they played it and searched through it a few times, whatever, that data, when you pull those queries and you try to build that final string, you pull those queries, those strings are going to keep building and 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 building.
Yeah.
And you're not, and actually that's not even, it's not even so bad that it's going to keep building. You're going to have this string where the heat map is maybe 10 characters. Then you're going to add to it and save it again. Add to it, 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 save it again. So if you have a video, I'm thinking of like a teacher in a classroom that plays a video 30 or 40 times a year. That last statement might have 20,000 characters in it. Just that one extension.
Yeah. So if
all the other previous statements, I mean, I know I missed a couple of calls. The data structure there has me extremely troubled.
Yeah. So let's see what is happening here. If a user is watching a video 20,000 times, we will not be worried too much about one string that is so long, but we'll be worried about the number of statements that would generate, because there'll be like millions of statements, because he would pause, play, skip, and do a lot of things inside that video. So that would be the larger problem, that we have so many statements. Having a string,
but
having
it's
a 20.
It's also going to be duplicate data.
No, having one string, a summary of the entire thing that the user has done, containing 20,000 characters. 20,000 characters would be like 20 KB of data. So we are talking about 20 KB of data compared to so many statements that they have sent. So the total number of statements that you would need to process to get to that summary of the data that you have at the end from one statement would probably be preferable for the reporting end. So in general, most of
But you're still sending all those previous statements. You're not voiding those original. If I hit pause, that statement's still there. Then I come back and hit pause again. The next time I watch it, it's going to send another pause statement, and it's going to add to that string in the second statement. So you're still going to have all the statements are still going to be there. You're not eliminating anything in that regard.
Yeah, why should we remove the statement? Why should we void the statement?
I'm sorry?
We are just avoiding processing all that data. Otherwise, we would need to pull the entire database, play, pause, and everything, and then process each timestamp. And that would be much more complicated than having a string. And that string would generally, for most of the users, they would watch one video for maybe 2 times or maybe 3 times, not more than that. Yes, if it is a teacher or a educator, he's probably watching it 10 or 20 or 50 times. That string will still not be more than 10 or 20 KB. The statement itself generally goes to 1 or 2 KB.
Plus all the previous iterations of the exact same statement. Well,
it is not exact same statement. It is not exact same statement because because he will not pause at the exact same time.
Yeah, but
you not pause at the exact same place.
Pankaj, what you described is when I play, I first go find out what I played previously, so I have the full string. Then I add to it when I play again. So that puts the overhead on YouTube of first have to issue a query to go see if this person has played before or whatever, or the course. I have to issue a query to see if this user has played it before. Then I have to add to that string and send the statement, okay, yes, he played this section too. So all the previous statements are there, plus this new one. The only difference being that I've added, I don't know, maybe 20 characters to this one. I don't have the format in front of me. Plus I have the overhead of sending that query first. I think in practice, I don't think that's, I don't have confidence in that in practice. Having created something and demonstrated it and faced some of these problems, I don't have a lot of confidence that's going to work in practice.
Hey, maybe a solution is for you to share that with us, and we could chew on it asynchronously, and look at the maybe help generate a sample statement from that, Anthony, and post it here in this use case thing for us to examine.
1 second.
And yeah, I mean, maybe that would help, because right now we're just theoretically kind of not arguing, but thinking about what may or should be in the statement. But if you've actually implemented something, maybe that's something we could go and look at. Now, Pankaj, have you implemented anything on your end too with your LRS or anything doing this, what you prescribed?
I haven't implemented heat map, but I see that the number of statements that go to the LRS could be a big problem.
Yeah.
With videos, because it amounts to a lot of data.
So maybe HEMAP is not needed for the extension. We just have to think of another way than which we would want to generate the use support the use case.
No, I believe the heat map string will at least simplify reporting, because the number of statements and the amount of data videos can send to the LRS is tremendous, and processing those statements would be comparatively very complicated for any kind of reporting system. So only large reporting systems with a lot of processing and power and the dedicated reporting systems will be able to process those and create the heat map data. But a very simple script would not be able to do that easily. This kind of heat map data would allow even a simple JavaScript to pull that information and show the heat map data.
So what statements are being eliminated? If I'm sending the heat map every time I send pause, I'm still sending a statement every time I send pause. So what's being eliminated?
The processing is eliminated.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that either, because I still have to crawl through every statement to make sure that it's the last one I got from that user.
No.
Well, yeah. Either that,
you
or
can
I
just,
have to crawl, or I have
you
to.
can just pull one statement and it will be the last statement.
In theory.
You just query, not theory, it is practical, it is specification requirement.
But if I'm pulling, I want all the users that sent this verb. It's not sending me just the last statement from that user unless it's the only statement from that user. If
no,
I issue
when you are doing xAPI query, you just provide the user's email ID or whatever actor ID is there.
How would I know? If I'm doing a query, I don't know all the actors that have played the video. And if I do that, now I'm going from one query to you can only issue one user, one agent per time. You don't search by actor. That is not true. You query by agent. That's a huge, huge difference. But you can only query by one agent at a time unless they're part of a group. Then you can query by the group.
I'm confused. Are you talking about sending statement to the LRS, or are you talking about reporting?
Both. So you're saying that by sending the heat map this way, it eliminates having to send other statements, but it doesn't.
No.
It demonstrably does not.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I might have not clarified it clearly, but what I'm saying is that it is eliminating a lot of processing to create the heat map reports.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I agree with that statement either. Because when you issue that query, if I issue the query, show me everyone who paused Big Buck Bunny, it's going to send me everyone who's paused. It's not going to send me the last statement from each person. It's going to send me every statement from each user that has paused as the verb and Big Buck Bunny is the activity. So then I'm going to have to crawl through that and make sure I've got the statements that I need. So I'm still interrogating a pretty big number. I'm still interrogating all of the. I'm still interrogating all of the statements.
So what is the solution?
I wouldn't I wouldn't use a continually growing heat map string for one. That'd be the first one. I mean, like I said, what I did was I just sent on any kind of a pause, stop. I think in my example, it's pause and completed because there is no stop. Is it pause, complete, and abandon? Maybe, I forget. I played from this point to this point. Bob's your uncle. And the reporting on that became, now in my case, I'm just reporting line by line, but even building a heat map, that should be a lot easier. You just say, okay, here's your start point, here's your end point. if you're looking at every statement anyway. Then that also lowers the overhead. I don't have to issue a query first to find out if you previously watched it, and I'm not adding to an existing string. I'm just saying, okay, at this time you watched from here to here. Have a nice day. So the processing on both ends is much easier. Now, I don't have the heat map working because I don't know how to build a heat map. Basically, I just need someone to help me do that heat map bar. If I can do that, I can.
If you want, I can help you with that.
Yeah, I haven't found a library or anything that I can build that bar easily. Everything I can find.
You don't even need a library. It can be done with simple divs. So for each segment, you just create a div and give it the size based on the length of time of that segment, and give a position based on the starting. So it is very simple HTML, CSS thing. If you want, I can help with that, no problem.
Yep.
And regarding this concatenation of string, if we need to change the idea that we had developed, we can maybe try and see what works best, and then decide to change. I think it should be good both ways.
Yeah, I posted the project I had. It's on GitHub. I posted that in the chat. The final article isn't complete there. That's going to be published through the guild, though. So we'll get the full one out there. I should probably finish it on GitHub at some point.
If you need any help with anything, you can let me know. I'll try to spare some time with anything related to videos. Especially video profiles. So yeah, heat map was one thing, and then completion was another thing that was required, and heat map information would make completion calculation much easier, because without that we would not know if the user has actually watched the entire video. So to be able to know if the user has watched entire video and not watched only, or not just reached the end of the video, we would need to know which segments of the video the user has watched. So once we have information of all the segments, we can find out if we can calculate and find out if he has watched the entire video. So that was another reason we needed the heat map string. Now, the debate of having only value of that segment, or having a concatenation or extended string for the entire registration or entire video for that user, is something that we can decide based on the implementation, and see if we face any challenges there. So maybe once we have the prototype working, we might be able to understand the pros and cons better, and I definitely think we might need to change few things here and there once we see some working code.
Yep, totally agree. Totally agree.
Does that make sense, Anthony?
Yep.
So yes, regarding the heat map, you can email me. You should have my email ID. You can email me, and I'll help you with that. It is not very complicated. Generating the heat map visualization. Or I can maybe create a script and send you. So anything else?
No, I was just gonna say, an hour goes by pretty fast, and it's hard to make a lot of progress because it is like a deep subject, and I've been having these meetings for 2 years, but I just
Yeah.
want to encourage everybody to try to work on this asynchronously between now and the next meeting. And there's a lot we can accomplish async, with comments. Pankaj and I have been going back and forth in here. All of you guys on the call, feel free to jump in and just let's start the conversation asynchronously offline and see how much we can get done between now and the next meeting. I think been making some good progress that way instead of everybody just waiting until the hour long we have each month, because you can only get so much done there.
Yeah, exactly. So we cannot get a lot done on the calls. Calls are very important, and we definitely had a lot of useful discussions. Even for heat map, I think we have discussed at least maybe 10 or 20 hours just just on the heat map. I think four, 5, or maybe 10 meetings have gone.
Yep. Well, let's not talk about heat map anymore. Like fight. We don't talk about it.
At the same time, though, some of this is, we talk about it in theory and it works, and then when you start trying to put things in practice, we may need to make some adjustments en route.
I totally agree with you, and I think no one else would agree more than myself that theory and practical is generally quite different, but we are doing so much of discussions to avoid issues when we have the prototypes and real real life usage, so that we don't need to go through too many passes on the prototypes and the coding.
That's a great quote you guys may have heard before too. One of ADL's chief architects of SCORM back in the days, he's passed. His name was Phil Dodds, but that was his famous quote that everyone uses: "Is working code trumps all theory."
Yep.
Yeah. So that's correct. So let's get the code and let's get it working. And probably that is the only thing everyone else is waiting for, because we can continue these meetings for next 2 years, and still we would not have achieved anything till we have a working code that people are using. Yes. And once we have working code that people can use, then we might see adoption and we might see real life problems that we would want to handle it.
Definitely.
So yes, I would try to add more on this document. I think we have got most of the core use cases. I just added this terminated thing. I haven't added the statement. And then we have the abandoned verb, so we can add one for the abandoned. And then we might need to decide what changes we need to make to these sections, which are currently common in all the use cases. So we might need to adjust these for preconditions, the use case scenario, post conditions for each of the use cases once they're in.
Real quick before we jump off here, can you skip down to number 5? I wanted to show you another table I had inserted in here that may be helpful with constructing the sample statements.
Yeah, I was wondering about that as well.
Required properties, use case required properties. I don't know. Feel free to look at it. And if you guys think it's useful, maybe we make that part of each of these statement templates also, because it helps you think through what are the required properties, where are they stored at in relation to the statement data model. And then it's a lot easier to construct that statement. I don't know if it's useful or not. Feel free to do that.
Yeah, maybe we can have this for each statement, or we can have maybe a matrix kind of thing. So we have separate statements on maybe top, and then each property, and say which one is required and which one is must, which one is should, and which one is optional or something like that. So in a spreadsheet, we could have a matrix kind of thing, possibly. Or we can have this like you have. But yes, it makes sense.
Sounds good.
Okay, so thanks everyone for joining the call. Let's meet next month, and let's try to get these use cases done and make progress on the prototype. That's very important.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.